19 years old, alone in a bombed-out French village. And coming straight at him, a 60-ton German Tiger tank. No backup, no radio, no way out. What this teenage GI did next was so impossible, so outrageously brave that his commanding officers refused to believe it at first. His diary, buried in a footlocker for over 60 years, tells a story that history almost never got to hear. This is one of the most jaw-dropping, heart-pounding accounts to ever emerge from the battlefields of Western Europe. And until now, it has never been told on camera. Welcome to Untold WW2 Diaries. I'm glad you're here, because today, we're opening a diary that was never meant to be read. The date is August 1944. The liberation of France is in full swing. And somewhere in the rubble of a shattered Norman village, a 19-year-old kid from rural Ohio named Private First Class Raymond Kowalski is about to face something no soldier ever wants to face alone. Stay with me, because this story will leave you speechless. Ray Kowalski was not supposed to be a hero. He grew up on a small farm outside of Zanesville, Ohio, the second of 5 kids, the son of a Polish-American steelworker who had come to America with nothing but calloused hands and a dream. Ray was quiet, bookish, the kind of kid who fixed broken radios for neighbors and read Louis L'Amour westerns by flashlight under his covers. He turned 18 in the spring of 1943. 6 months later, he was in basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia. His diary, a beat-up, olive-drab notebook he called The Book, begins in November 1943 with a line that tells you everything about him. Dear God, I don't know if I'm brave enough for this, but I'm going anyway. Ray was assigned to the 30th Infantry Division, the Old Hickory Division, one of the toughest, most decorated American units of the entire war. These were hard men forged from the hills of the Carolinas, the factories of the Midwest, the farms of the South. And young Ray Kowalski, skinny and fresh-faced, was one of them. By the summer of 1944, he had already survived the bloody hedgerow fighting of Normandy. He'd watched friends die. He'd dug foxholes in pouring rain. He'd gone days without real food. And somehow, against every odd, he was still standing. But nothing had prepared him for what was coming. In his diary entry from August 7th, 1944, Ray writes, "We've been pushing east for 3 days. The Germans are pulling back, but they're leaving nasty surprises behind. Sergeant Doyle says stay sharp. I'm trying. Stay sharp." 2 words that would mean everything in the next 24 hours. The village had no strategic value. It was barely a village at all. A church, a bakery, a dozen stone houses, and a road that connected 2 more important places. The kind of place that exists quietly for centuries and then gets swallowed by war in a single afternoon. The platoon was ordered to clear and hold the village while the main column pushed forward. It was supposed to be a routine sweep. Intelligence said the Germans had already pulled out. Intelligence was wrong. Ray's diary captures the moment the platoon entered the village with razor-sharp clarity. Everything is too quiet. No birds. That's when I know something's wrong. Birds always leave before the Germans do. The platoon spread out. 4 squads, 12 men each, moving through the rubble-strewn streets with rifles up and eyes scanning every shadow. Ray's squad moved along the eastern edge, past a collapsed wall and a burnt-out Renault truck. Then, a crack of a rifle. Then another. Snipers, hidden in the church tower. In seconds, the quiet village became a nightmare. Men dove for cover. Sergeant Doyle took a round in the shoulder. Radios went down. A mortar shell had already taken out the communications jeep on the road behind them. And that's when it happened. The sound. Ray writes, "I heard it before I saw it. A grinding, mechanical roar. like something prehistoric. The whole ground shook, and then it came around the corner of the mill, a tiger. An actual tiger tank. I froze. I've never been so scared in my entire life. A German Panzerkampfwagen 6, the Tiger I, 6 inches of armor plate, an 88mm cannon capable of destroying any Allied tank at over a mile. The most feared armored vehicle of the Second World War. And it was heading directly toward the alley where Ray Kowalski was hiding. Alone. Here is what you need to understand about a Tiger tank. A standard American GI's rifle, an M1 Garand, would do exactly nothing to a Tiger. The armor would laugh at it. Even a bazooka, the American anti-tank rocket launcher, had to be fired at close range and aimed at a specific weak point to have any effect. And Ray? Ray had one thing. A single bazooka he'd grabbed from a fallen soldier 20 yards back, sprinting through open ground while bullets snapped past his ears. He had 2 rockets, 2 shots. His hand was shaking so badly he could barely load the first one. I told myself, Ray, you're gonna die either way, he writes. Either the tank kills you or the embarrassment of running kills you. So you might as well do something stupid. Something stupid. He pressed his back against the stone wall of an old barn. The Tiger was 40 meters away, moving slowly, its turret rotating, searching. The massive gun barrel swung toward his position. Ray could see the German cross on the hull. He could smell the diesel exhaust. He had maybe 8 seconds. He writes, I thought about my mother. I thought about the smell of her kitchen on Sunday mornings. And then I stepped out from behind that wall. What he did next is the stuff of legend. Ray Kowalski stepped into the open street, dropped to one knee, aimed the bazooka at the Tiger's right track assembly, the most vulnerable spot at that angle, and fired. The explosion was enormous. The track blew apart. The 60-ton machine lurched hard to the right, grinding to a halt against the bakery wall, its turret spinning wildly as the crew tried to regain control. The tank was immobilized, but it was not dead. The 88mm gun was still fully operational, and it was now swinging directly toward Ray. He had 1 rocket left. I don't remember reloading, he writes. I don't remember aiming. I remember pulling the trigger and then being on the ground. I don't know how I got on the ground. The second rocket struck the Tiger at the base of the turret, a seam in the armor so narrow that a bazooka round had almost no chance of penetrating. Almost. The explosion rocked the entire street. The turret jammed. Smoke poured from the engine compartment. The hatches blew open, and the German crew scrambled out, hands raised, stumbling into the rubble. Raymond Kowalski, 19 years old, a farm kid from Ohio with 2 rockets and shaking hands, had just single-handedly stopped a Tiger tank. The village fell silent except for the crackle of fire and the distant sounds of battle. Then the birds came back. When the rest of his platoon found him, Ray was sitting on the curb across from the burning tank, staring at his hands. He hadn't said a word. He wasn't celebrating. He wasn't even fully aware of what he'd done yet. Sergeant Doyle, bleeding, his arm in an improvised sling, walked up to him and looked at the smoking wreck. Kowalski, he reportedly said, what in the hell is wrong with you? And Ray, according to his own diary, looked up and said, I think I might have done something stupid, Sergeant. Doyle stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed until he cried. The after-action report filed by the 30th Infantry Division on August 8, 1944, briefly notes, 1 enemy Tiger-type tank disabled by infantry action, village of Saint Germain sector, 1 soldier bazooka. 11 words. 11 words for one of the most remarkable acts of individual courage in the entire Normandy campaign. Ray was recommended for the Distinguished Service Cross. He received the Bronze Star instead, an administrative mix-up that was never corrected. He accepted it without complaint. "They gave me a medal and a new pair of socks," he wrote. "I was more grateful for the socks." Ray Kowalski continued to serve with the 30th Division all the way through Germany. He crossed the Rhine. He was present at the liberation of a Nazi forced labor camp in April 1945, an event that, he writes, broke something in me that has never fully healed. He came home to Zanesville in September 1945. He married a schoolteacher named Dorothy. He raised 3 kids. He worked 30 years at a hardware store. He never once talked about the war. The diary was found by his granddaughter, Claire, in a footlocker in the attic in 2009. Ray had died the previous year at the age of 83. Claire read it in one sitting at the kitchen table at 2 in the morning, weeping. What does it mean to face a Tiger tank alone at 19? It means you're operating in pure, unfiltered terror. Every instinct screaming at you to run, to hide, to disappear into the rubble and wait for someone else to fix it. It means your body is flooded with adrenaline and your hands won't obey your brain, and the world has narrowed down to a single moment, a single choice. And you choose to stand up anyway. That is the raw courage of the greatest generation, not the absence of fear. Ray Kowalski was absolutely terrified, and he says so again and again on every page of that battered notebook. But the decision to act despite the fear, to step out from behind the wall when every atom of survival instinct is screaming at you not to. Ray never considered himself a hero. He said so in the diary, and by all accounts he said so to anyone who ever tried to thank him. "I was just a kid who didn't want to let his friends down," he wrote in his final entry, dated 1947. That's all any of us were. Just kids who didn't want to let each other down. But here's the thing about stories like Ray's. They don't belong only to him. They belong to all of us, to everyone who has ever faced something terrifying and found, somewhere deep inside, a courage they didn't know they had. The greatest generation didn't know they were the greatest generation while it was happening. They were just doing what had to be done, one terrible morning at a time. Ray Kowalski's diary is not just a war story. It is a reminder that ordinary people are capable of extraordinary things when it matters, when it counts, when everything is on the line. The Tiger tank rusted away. The village of Saint-Germain-le-Petit was rebuilt. The war ended. But the moment Ray Kowalski stepped out from behind that wall, that moment lives forever. The men and women of World War II grew up in the shadow of the Great Depression, were forged in the fire of a global war, and came home to build the modern world, and then went quietly about their lives, saying almost nothing about what they had endured. Their stories are disappearing. Every year, more diaries go unread, more footlockers go unopened, more voices fall silent. That is why we are here, to open those footlockers, to read those diaries, to make sure the world never forgets what ordinary courage looks like. Ray Kowalski stepped out from behind that wall so that we wouldn't have to. The least we can do is remember. If this hidden diary gave you chills, smash that like button right now. Drop a comment. What do you think really happened in that alley? Was it skill, luck, or something else entirely? Or share your own family WW2 story below. We read every single one. And if you want more Untold diaries from the front lines, subscribe to Untold WW2 Diaries and hit the bell so you never miss a single hidden story. Thanks for watching. Their courage lives on through us.